Good morning and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folari. Thank God it's Friday. Well, today our guest is an activist, a senator. You're a senator for life. I was going to say former senator. No, he's a senator, especially in the 8th Senate. When he was in APC, he represented the Kaduna Central at the time. But since then, our senator has moved on. First of all, good morning to you, Senator Shehu Sani.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Indeed, it is our pleasure, indeed. I first of all thought I'd find out, first of all, you are now a governorship aspirant in the PDP. Now, this is coming from, I don't know if you will agree, a checkered sort of a political history, because as I was just saying there, you started out in the APC, moved to the PRP, and are now in the PDP. In fact, there are those who are saying that, do you also have eyes for the NNPP? And that's because they saw you on a visit to, Shekarau of the NNPP. First of all, tell me, is it that the political ideology of all of these parties, removing the NNPP, are they so similar that it doesn't matter? Or are you still searching for a political philosophy that you can be comfortable with?
Thank you for having me once again. Well, first and foremost, I was in the APC, and I was a founding member in the APC, at least from my own state. And we were able to unite and evict the PDP government in that state at that very time. But after we have established a government, and then the differences between us came to the open, in the sense that it became so uncomfortable and inconvenient for some of us to work together, especially with the state governor, having the fact that we came from a different political and ideological background. And I thought, and many of us thought, that APC will behave differently from the PDP, in the sense that when many of them migrated from the PDP, they complained of absence or lack of internal democracy. Then those very symptoms that destroyed the PDP now started showing itself within the APC realm. And I don't think a person of my own background can sit down and then watch a state governor load on us everything, and then we have to kowtow to it. That is not my own idea of what a democracy is all about. So all those anti-democratic tendencies, like imposition of candidate, tyranny within the party, and the feeling that whatever the executive governor says is the diktat, is the law, that cannot work with a person like me. And what we later understood was that governors take the APC as a franchise they received from Abuja. So everything begins and ends with them. They dictate who becomes the exco of the party. They dictate who takes the ticket of the party. And the party begins and ends with them. So the party seems to have been an extension of the executive arm of the state. And people like me who are independent-minded and who believe that the party has a constitution that should be strictly adhered to, should be complied with, we find ourselves in a very strange land like Alice. So many of us who started off the APC try to seek resolution of the crisis from the national headquarters. But it's clear to us that we have a president who doesn't have mechanism for addressing or redressing crises within state. And these symptoms seem to have continue up to today within the APC. So now we have to migrate out of the APC. And there was movement out of the APC in the National Assembly. But I have to go back and make my own consultation at home. And I wanted to move to the PDP, but after consultations, Balarabe Musa, our late ideological mentor, suggested and to his own insisted that I should move to the PRP, and I did. But while I was in the PRP, and then we have two opposition parties, or many of them, there is a PDP, there is PRP in the state. While Balarabe Musa, during his time, there was crisis in the PRP, and then we were all working together with the PDP, saying that how can we unite and dislodge the government of El-Rufai from Kaduna State. And we found out that we cannot do it if we continue to divert our forces and dissipate our energies from different small political parties. So that brought the idea of me coming into the PDP. Right now, we are working together, and I'm aspiring to be the next governor of Kaduna State, and I'm one of the aspirants. There are 7 of us, and we hope that by the next Thursday, when we are going to have a primary, I will emerge as the gubernatorial candidate of the party. So, but if you look at the history of political parties in Nigeria, especially under this republic, there are no clear ideological differences between one party and another. Those who established the APC were people who come from the PDP. And if you look at the crowd of people around President Buhari, these were the same people who were in power from 1999 to 2015. So trying to find a difference between one party and another is a problem, especially for a person like me, who come from the background of being an activist. I'm still trying to find the difference between the two political parties, because almost everything is the same. If you check their constitutions, their manifestos, it's all the same thing. So it's more of a vehicle that you need when you aspire for political office. It's not like what you have in the UK, the Liberal Party, the Conservative, the Labour, or you have the Democratic and Republican Party, or in Brazil you have the Workers' Party, Socialist Party, Communist Party. There's virtually no ideological differences. It's simply a vehicle. So anybody can fit into any person, any party. If today APC is in power, if today PDP takes over power, the same people from that area will migrate to this place. So this is where we have it. Until we have an ideologically driven party, then perhaps many of us will feel comfortable. But I had trouble in the APC, and I cannot, to all honesty, tell you that what is happening in the PDP is in line with my own ideological thinking. So if I don't feel comfortable here, I will certainly do what I need to do. But what I don't change is my own personal principle, and not virtually political parties, because they have no ideology, they have no principle. It's the same elite ruling class that are in two political parties. But what the difference is that people have seen that what has happened between 2015 to date is a dashed hope and dashed expectations for Nigerians. All they have hoped that will happen, the magic that will happen, the packages of promises and pledges that were made were not fulfilled. So Nigerians will naturally have to look for a different leadership, and that is what we are now having to unite to see how we can rescue this country by taking over power.
Thank you very much, Senator, for giving us that overview. I'm going to come back and look at one or two aspects of what you've just said. But in the meantime, I've got to go on a quick break, so please stay with us. Okay, welcome back, and we're still with Senator Shehu Sani, who is in our Abuja studio. Thank you once again, Senator, for making time for us. And okay, when you did your sort of explanation of the moves and the need from one party to the other, I discern something of an element of criticism of the PDP, where you have now landed. And as we say locally, I got the impression, correct me if I'm wrong, that you are just managing. It's a how for do kind of a scenario, given that, as you said, the ideology between the various parties, according to you, is very, very similar. Is that not a bit ironic? If you're criticizing the PDP, yet you are still, you have now landed in the party, not just landed in the party for play, but you actually have bought your form, and you took the trouble or the time to say that no support group bought your form, or you bought it by yourself. Explain to me that sort of, contradiction a bit.
Well, first of all, what I came to realize is that in this country, almost every person who is a card-carrying member of a political party has his own grudges and inconveniences. And this is not just prevalent with the party I found myself in, but even the ruling party, despite that they are in government. And even the ruling party, you can see the clusters of power, whereby camps exist. And most likely, if you join a political party, you likely have to be asked, which of the camp do you belong to? Like in the APC now, if you are in the APC, it's not just enough being in the APC. Are you with the Amechis, with the Aswajus, or with the Cabal? So you can see how inner clusters exist within the ruling party. Now, within the opposition party, even in the state which I come from, I have always insisted on them on the need for unity. And sometimes when I speak, it appears very strange for them because they are used to a certain kind of politics where one belongs to a certain faction and the other one is an enemy. And then if you don't get it, you are ready to bring the roof down. So now sidelining the very importance of the need to take over power. Well, when I bought my form, I have to do things differently. Politicians have always tell a lot of lies around that groups do gather money for them to buy forms, or groups buy forms and donate to them. Well, I know personally that I bought my own form, and I have to tell the public that there was virtually no group that contributed any kobo to me. And I think politicians do that in order to present themselves as people who are loved by their people, and people can contribute money for them to buy forms and then win election. It's a kind of a ritualistic politics, but most of it is false. It's lies. It's simply an attempt to present a false impression of what a politician is all about. So I have to make that very clear. And if we can start from the foundation of being sincere, open, and honest to ourselves, then it is on that we can build a structure of honesty, of integrity in governance. But people see lies as part of politics, which I don't believe in that. And again, as I said, until people participate in politics and then change the narratives of it, and then we will not have the kind of government we deserve. Good people are scared out of politics because of a lot of falsehood, dishonesty, mischief, and betrayal. But one has to clearly understand that you must be able to cross all those hurdles if you are really interested in serving your people, and how you can have a politics that is moral in our society is something very difficult to do. First of all, with the prices of cost of funds. In a ruling party, they gave 100 million naira and then 50 million naira for the governorship and other things. And the opposition party is 40 for president and then 21 for governors. Well, even by such exorbitant amount, good people who cannot afford it are virtually excluded from aspiring for political office. And there is no reason other than they impose such kind of fines on people in order to scare others out of it. And until you go inside, there are things that people are not allowed to say, but I'm not that kind of person. You pay for form, that is one, and then when you're submitting your form, you pay again. And then when you are going for screening, you pay. And then when they are organizing primaries, they tell you to contribute money. And I have to ask them a question. I say, the money which we paid for the purchase of form, why can't that money be used for other things? They say that is not how it is done. But I can not just keep quiet. We can't aspire to change this country when so many things are going wrong, even with the system. Both the ruling and opposition party are preparing for the primaries. But we know that people are stashing money to pay bribes to delegate to vote for them, including the ruling party, including the opposition party, and many of these parties. So how do people are not elected, or people don't win primaries because they are good. It's because they give money. And I said very well that I'm not going to give any kobo. If you will vote for me based on what I stand for, my ideology, my struggle, and what I desire to change in my society, that's fine. When I was contesting for the senatorial seat in 2015, the delegates gathered, and my opponents were there, and I told them in black and white that I'm not going to share money for you to vote for me. And I think that is what happened, and miraculously I won. But this time around, the very foundation for which leadership is founded is itself corrupt. People are gathering money in dollars, in pounds, in naira to share to delegates for them to be elected to change Nigeria. And so how do you change this country when you are sharing money and bribery starting from the process of electing your leaders? Well, so as for me, I believe many things need to change in this country, but first of all is the politics itself.
Okay, thank you very much. There were one or two places I wanted to interject, but there's a very long gap between us, so that wouldn't have been effective. But I have the opportunity now, so I'll sort of wrap two questions in one. One, your charge that people are gathering money with which to bribe the delegates. I mean, pay the delegates, bribe the delegates is one and the same thing. I don't know if that is on good evidence or if it is just one of those things, because that is what people know. But with people like you, you're an insider, you're a player, and so when you say it, it carries weight. Is it based on any particular evidence? And then I also wanted to slip in the fact that you were seen yesterday with Kwakwanso of NMPP. What's your disposition towards the NMPP, seeing as you've come from APC into PRP into PDP, now you're seen with your brother Kwakwanso. What does that mean? What's your disposition?
You see, we are in an election season today, and the Electoral Act does not allow you to contest primaries in this party and then move to another party, maybe if you are denied ticket, to contest through another primary season. So my Konkoso has been my friend and my colleague for a very long time. And I really salute his courage for establishing a third option. I am in the People's Democratic Party, and I hope to win the primaries in 2022 next Thursday to emerge as the candidate for 2023 elections. But it's not that I'm moving to the NNPP, but I believe that Nigeria needs a third option, whereby it's clear that the two parties are having problem in resolving what is needed for this country. The ruling party has an initial pledge of almost shifting power to southern part of Nigeria after the president has completed his 8-year term. But the very moment I learned that they said everyone is free to buy forms, you know that they have reneged on that. And then you see chaos and people are going for forms from all parts of the country. And the opposition party itself is very clear that it has done what is called throwing it open. And so from all that is happening, it seems that both the two main political parties are having problems with themselves on what they want to do, and almost everyone is unsure of what will happen. So there is the need to have a third option, because this country is too big to be left on the hands of people who are finding it difficult to decide what is good for our country. Our country is in crisis politically, and so we have challenges, and nothing can solve it other than a leadership that is ready, committed, dedicated, and have a vision of addressing our problem. I come from the northwestern part of the country. You can see how bandits and terrorists have taken over lands, imposing fines and levies on farmers, forcing people to sell their homes, their farmlands to pay ransom, and deciding who lives and who dies. I come from Kaduna. Our airport is shut down. Our railway is shut down. And to move from Abuja to Kaduna, put your life and that of your family at risk. This problem is not unsolvable. A nation of 211 million people cannot be held ransom by some 10 or 15,000 bandits or terrorists. So, and nothing can solve that other than the right leadership. And wherever we can find it, we must be interested in what happens in the other political party, even if we're not part of it. Because to me, I believe Nigeria is what is most important. But it's not that I am moving, but I believe that any effort to be made is commendable. For example, there is a National Consultative Front that is allied itself with Labour to form a fourth option. So I think all these things here are needed. We need simply a leader that will address the problems of Nigeria, because we are in deep crisis and in deep mess.
One of the things you spoke about earlier, the need for change, which is reminiscent of the APC and its roadmap. That need for change, also will. How do I put this now? Especially as it relates to the fight against corruption. Now, as you know, very recently, the EFCC has, charged the Accountant General of the Federation with an 80 billion naira fraud, and has even said more recently that it has uncovered, 17 properties leading that they can link to him. It will remain to see if indeed they are able to do that. But I just wanted to ask you, what does this say? You've spoken about a need for change. You were in the APC, now you're in the PDP. What would be your assessment generally of the fight against corruption in our society today?
You see, Nigerians are now scared of using that word change. And also politicians who are moving around campaigning, especially presidential aspirants, are also being skeptical and cautious in using the word change, because change has been so bastardized, and so many promises made under that word of change has not come to fruition. So if they see a man campaigning for change or using the word change, they simply get scared. But what we need now as a country, I believe, is a leader that will unite the nation, because we have never been so divided as we are today. Secondly, that will address our security challenges. And thirdly, that will address our economic challenges. And fourthly, the one that will give this nation a roadmap to the future is the kind of person we need. About corruption and the allegations made against the Accountant General, well, all Nigerians know about this was simply through a statement made public by the EFCC that the Accountant General has been arrested over an allegation of 80 billion naira fraud, for which he uses funds to purchase property, and he was engaged in laundering money through real estate. Well, this is the only information we have. But I believe that as investigation goes on, more facts will emerge on what is actually going on. And if Nigerians can recall history, we have seen the position of the Accountant General on the ASU strike and this IPPIS. He has made so much noise about it and has portrayed government as if there is no enough funds to address the problem of ASU. Now, the allegations that are raised against him is clear to the fact that deliberately the government has not been able to address the problem of ASU, not because they don't have the resources to do that, but they are bureaucrats who are feeding fat on the system.
Okay, I beg your pardon, Senator.
Come first before public interest or the interest of Nigerians.
Senator, I'm so sorry. Yes. I must interrupt once more just to go on another break, but I'll be right back and we'll continue from where we left off. Stay with us, please. Okay, we're back and resuming our conversation with Senator Shehu Sani of the PDP and indeed governorship aspirant, as he was saying earlier in the conversation. You know, by next week, he hopes that his party now, the PDP, will make him indeed the flag bearer. And, you know, but I interrupted your train of thought when you were speaking about we're speaking about corruption generally and the efforts of this government and indeed all of us, the country, to fight corruption, what your assessment was. And you were just finished saying that, well, all that we do know is what the EFCC has told us and that more will come out. But you observe that Mr. Ahmed Idris had made some statements that would seem to be totally divergent with what the EFCC is now saying about him. If you could pick it up from there, please.
The suspended Accountant General has delved into the ASU issues and has made statements which he tries to defend the government by saying as if there is no enough funds to address their needs or their wants or their demands. But with the allegation raised against him, it's clear that public officers or bureaucrats in government are simply putting their own personal interests ahead of public interest. And I believe that as the investigation goes on, he may not be the only person who may be indicted, because it is impossible for an Accountant General of the Federation to have conducted and executed such allegations alone without accomplices. So I believe as the investigation goes on, Nigerians will come to know the detail. But it is unfortunate that one person will have been alleged to have done that in a nation where it is almost struggling to pay the salary of its workers. And there are comparisons made with the IGR of some states and what he was alleged to have appropriated for himself. And I believe that as the investigation goes, Nigerians will better be more informed. But for now, I think this is a clear indication that perhaps after this government, many things will come to the public knowledge of how a government that is founded on integrity, honesty, and change could have found itself deeply enmeshed in this. If you look at it in the last 6 years, there have been a lot of allegations of arms deal, squandering of money for arms for under PDP and whatever. But what is happening today is so gigantic, so gargantuan, to the point that it appears that PDP were saintly in their own 16 years of wrongdoings with regards to what's happening from 2015 to date.
Well, I was wondering if you would not find that you have to make concessions, that some progress, maybe nowhere near as much as most people would want, might have been made in the war against corruption, the fight against corruption, devices that have been put in place, or, you know, a treasury single account, for example, and those kind of things, and perhaps it's not as bad as it used to be. Does that wash with you at all?
You see, the way things run in this country, a government has to be out of office for you to know what it has done while in office. And it has always been like that. It took the government of Umaru Musa Yar'Adua for Nigerians to know what happened under Obasanjo. And it also took the government of Jonathan to know what happens under Umaru. And I believe that it took the government of Buhari to know what's happened under Jonathan. So it will take a new government in power, whether it's Atiku or Kwankwaso or Aswaju, Tinubu or Amechi in the next government, to know what happened under this present administration. So, but it's difficult now because when you're in power, you are most likely to cover things up, to seal things up, to delay things up. But by the time you're out of power, what you have sat on will be known. So let us wait and see when Buhari is out of office before the rot, the decadence, and the massive corruption that has taken over under this government was most likely going to be known. But for now, people are being covered, they are being insulated. There is impunity because the government is still in place. But whatever happens, more will be known after this government is out of office.
Okay. Now, coming back to you and your aspiration to be the next governor in Kaduna State, you have said that if that happens, you will make banditry in your home state of Kaduna a thing of the past. Now, the incumbent governor, El-Rufai, arguably has been fighting this particular battle day and night, night and day. And you say that you can actually make it a thing of the past. So what is he not doing that you would be doing? And generally tell us how you would, you know, achieve that feat.
Well, first of all, since 2015, while I was serving as a senator, hardly a day goes by without me standing on the floor of the Senate and telling the public and appealing to the conscience of this nation on the situation in Kaduna State and the areas which I represent. Terrorists have been killing people and kidnapping people, extorting ransom, unleashing mayhem, displacing hundreds of villages, and they have also become a state within a state. Farmers in our own state most times pay terrorists to go to their farms, and they also pay terrorists to harvest their crops. In some places, they are almost state. They impose their own diktat on what should happen and what should not happen. But each time I stood up to speak on the floor of the Senate, ruling party in my state, and particularly elements close to the state governor, have consistently attacked me, defamed me, insulted me, criticized me as raising false alarm, as being the enemy of the president, and that almost everything is rosy, is flowery, is fine, and is good. Today we are living that reality of what I said. In southern Kaduna, there is a campaign of genocide and massacre by bandits and terrorists. In central Kaduna, only 2 local governments are safe, the one in the metropolis, which is the Kaduna North and Kaduna South. Birningwadi, Giwa, Kajuru, Chukun are virtually sleeping with half an eye closed. This is what happens out of it. As you should know, Kaduna Airport has been closed down since the last time they attacked. And the railway for 54 days now, our own people are still in the bush in the hands of bandits. And just 2 days ago, while they said Kaduna-Abuja road has been secured, over 15 people were kidnapped. So kidnapping is almost a daily affair in my own state. And the government helpless. Bandits or terrorists attack the Federal College of Agri-Mechanization. The parents have to pay a ransom of over 200 million to get their own children out. Bandits or terrorists attack the Greenfield University in Kaduna. They have to pay over 200 million ransom to get their children out. Bandits attack the Bethel Baptist High School in Kaduna. They have to pay over similar amounts of money to get their own wards out. And now, bandits have also moved away from kidnapping people on the road. They come to the outskirts of the city, in the northern outskirts and southern outskirts, kidnap people, make phone calls, and collect ransom. And they were so audacious to have attacked the Nigerian Defense Academy, the premier institution that trained our military. Nobody was sacked, nobody resigned. Now, which kind of country is this? You can't secure your people, you can't protect your people, so you have no business being in government. As a governor of Kaduna State, I have a program, I have a plan, and I have an agenda, and how I can secure the lives of my people and protect them from bandits and terrorists. Whatever the governor is doing has not been yielding any fruit. Governors do say that they can't do anything because it's the federal government that controls the police, the army, and whatever. But it's not true. You can see how governors use these security forces to secure their state during election. The president is visiting your state, you will see peace, you will see calm, you will see security agencies everywhere. So I, as a governor of the state, I have my own personal plan and agenda. If people of Kaduna State are desirous of bringing an end to this banditry, to this terrorism, to these unnecessary killings, kidnappings, and ransom payment, they should vote for me. And I will provide that solution. And I said it very clear. For all I have been saying, and they have been insulting me, just yesterday or 2 days ago, the governor of the state, El-Rufai, admitted that elements of ISWAP and Boko Haram have infiltrated Kaduna and are now in Kaduna. This is what I've been saying for more than 5 to 10 years, and people are 5 to 6, 7 years, and people have been saying as if I am his enemy, and as if I'm defaming or destroying him or destroying his government. But now he comes to admit the fact, and what he was saying is the truth. So it depends on what we are going to do with it. Because if Kaduna is not safe, there is no part of northwestern Nigeria that is going to be safe. If Boko Haram have moved from Maiduguri and they have moved to Kaduna State, not even the southwest is free. So what the state government has raised is a challenge to the country and to the federal government to do the needful before we become under Somalia. Because all elements of a failing state is self-evident in the Nigeria of today. And what are these most important factors or most important symptoms? When non-state actors possess the same arms, ammunition, and instrument of coercion equal to that of state actors, then the state is failing. We have a lot of ungovernable spaces in our state, in our country, where bandits and terrorists have become an authority. And for how long will this continue?
Okay,
so
Senator,
I'm going to be that governor that will not abdicate my security responsibility to the federal government. I will do what it can to protect my people.
Okay, Governor, I beg your pardon, Senator, when you just said, you are seeing indications of a failing, if not failed state, I was a bit surprised at that, coming from a patriot. I mean, it's all right for the Americas of this world, and not just America generally, but certain segments of America to have those kind of dispositions. But surely Nigeria is far from a failed state. And you didn't share specifically what you might be doing different. You yourself admitted that the excuses, your word, that governors have is that all the paraphernalia of security, in the hands of the federal authorities, and so there's very little they could do. So I was hoping that you'd tell us what you could then do differently in this kind of a scenario. But also, maybe you just go back to that whole matter. Did you just say Nigeria is a failing state?
Of course, if you didn't hear it, I am repeating it, that Nigeria is a failing state under this government. And if you don't hear it again, I can repeat it again for you. Did you hear what I said?
I heard you now. I heard your opinion now.
Why did I say that? Now, why did I say that? Kaduna State hosts the highest number of military, police, and defense and security bases, Kaduna State, than any other part of Nigeria. We have the Armed Forces Command and Staff College, we have Nigerian Defense Academy, we have depot, we have several battalions, we have all these Air Force bases, we have police training colleges and whatever in Kaduna State. But our airport is closed down because of bandits. And we cannot use the train because of bandits. And we cannot travel in peace from Suleja to Kaduna because of bandits. And you cannot move outside of Kaduna's city after 7 or 8 o'clock without getting into the hands of bandits. So what other symptoms are you looking for? Is it symptoms of malaria or symptoms of typhoid fever? If you are talking of symptoms of failing state, this is already self-evident. The non-state actors, the bandits, the terrorists, the herdsmen, have equal firepower with the state actors, the army, the police. Sometimes even victims who come out of captivity do make statements and narratives that the arms they have seen in the hands of these bandits and terrorists is most likely to be more sophisticated than our own security agencies. So whatever, what is a state? A state is the capacity and the ability of the government to control the forces of coercion, the state apparatus, and to protect its own borders. That is, but when you are failing in that aspect, what do you see? If you are moving from Kaduna to Lagos, the moment you are out of Kaduna, you move to Birnin and then heading to Ilorin and Ibadan, you are getting into a territory where you don't see any government there. So what other symptoms do you need to do? When you have, what do you need to see? When you have a government in place, and it has not, your daughter, your husband is kidnapped, you make a phone call, and then the security agencies cannot do anything about it, and people in government cannot do anything about it. So where is the government? And when there is no government, there is no state.
Okay, all right, I hear that, Senator.
Many times, nowadays, when you have your own one kidnapped, you will be waiting for the call from the kidnapper to tell you how much you are going to pay. So what other symptoms are you looking for if the state is not failing?
Well, okay.
So how can we reverse this trend is by electing leaders who will give hope, who will restore order and peace and have vision for Nigeria of the future. It's happening in Rwanda. It's happening in other countries. Why can't we have a leader that will restore our dignity, our hope, and be able to address the challenges we face as a country?
And in your native Kaduna, that is the leader, the kind of leader that you hope to be, should you indeed go beyond getting the ticket from your party, PDP, actually becoming a governor after that, after a general election. That's the kind of leader that you hope to be. But I still didn't get what it is, because you yourself have helped to explain the extent of the problem. As you know, your state governor, he has a zero tolerance for, quote unquote, settling bandits, AKA ransom. And the few successes, if one can call it that, no, I don't even think we should call it a success. The few situations of our dear people that we got back has been after paying ransom. But he has said that you can't hand over governance to non-state actors. I'm still trying to figure out, jumping all the hurdles and imagining Shehu Sani as the governor of Kaduna State, what you would do differently. I hear what you're saying, what you would do differently to bring this to an end.
Okay, I will do this in item by item. First of all, I will unite the people of Kaduna, the predominantly Christian South and the predominantly Muslim North, because unity is very important. Until when you unite the people, that the people now know that they have a common enemy, that they can all fight But when people are divided, it's very easy for the terrorists, for the bandits to operate very freely. Kaduna is a divided state. We need a bridge to unite the people of the South and the North, and I am that bridge. That is one. Secondly, what I will do about security. We have talked so much about drones, drones and drones and drones. You see, in the 21st century, you cannot fight 21st century criminality with a 20th century strategy. You cannot set up checkpoints and using flashlight, torchlight on faces of drivers, telling them to on their inner lights and boots, and then you say you are fighting terrorism. That is good for 19th and 18th century, not this century. We talk so much about drones, but if I ask you, where is the drone station in Kaduna or any part of the Northwest, you cannot show me anything about it. So as a governor of the state, I have a responsibility to see that we provide this technology. Drones technology performs two functions. One is that it gathers information, and secondly, it can launch direct attack on where those terrorists are. We need such stations in 23 local governments of my state, and I'm going to ensure that. Secondly, I'm going to organize the people of my state into a revolutionary force. They have to be provided the equipment, the defense mechanism for them to take the war to the camp of the terrorists. People have to be able to be supported, funded, and assisted to defend ancestral lands.
But that is being done right now. I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon, sir.
If I fund them, we will see who owns the land between us and the terrorists. That is very important. Okay. The third thing I'm going to do is use security votes to provide equipment, apparatus, and support for our security agencies on the ground. Look at it recently. The governor of Oyo State, he purchased over 100 in others who donated 50 cars to the police, to the civil defense, the immigration, the custom, to the army. Don't do that. They only buy cars and share to traditional religious leaders. So they are not really serious about security.
But I was hearing
about themselves.
Sorry, I know this gap between us is causing that. I was just hearing that the governor has announced that very, very shortly there's going to be approval given for up to 1,000, if I believe the figure was 1,000 more vigilantes in this whole fight against to complement the security forces that are already working on it. I mean, efforts are continuing to be made, but from your point of view, not very much is coming out of that, or it is too little?
Well, first of all, he is opposed to ransom payment now. He must have been a convertee, because he was someone who initially, years ago, believed in appeasing the headsmen with funds. But he must have but him. Secondly, he is also a convertee by accepting that there are terrorists of ISWAP and Boko Haram, because it's something which I've said so many times, and many of his spin doctors were insulting me.
Okay. Thirdly, all right, I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon, Senator. Forgive me for interrupting again, Senator. Senator, I'm so sorry. We've run out of time, and I wanted to sort of end it back on you. Thank you very much for making the time for us. I wanted to ask about your war chest. You're going into the contest. If the PDP says indeed you are our flag bearer, I wanted to sort of get a peek into your war chest. As you know, in Nigeria, politics is what it is. You have a healthy war chest ready then? I'm talking about the billions, allegedly, that they say these kind of things cost.
Well, my last word is that the 2023 elections is an opportunity to reset and reconfigure Nigeria. And Nigeria should be our common political party. And whatever political party you belong to, I think what should be is the interest, the unity, and the future of our country. And we should elect leaders based on their credibility, acceptability, and the vision they have for us, and not false promises and false pledges. And for all, we should not elect leaders because Money is given to us to redirect our conscience, but we should elect leaders whom we believe can deliver us out of Egypt to the promised land.
All right, then. I want to thank you very much, Senator Shehu Sani, in our Abuja studio, our PDP governorship aspirant in Kaduna, Kaduna State. We wish you all the very best. Thank you once more for making time for us. And indeed, that's our program, and it's the last one for the week. Please join us on Monday. We don't do weekends. Please join us on Monday for a fresh edition. I'm Iyori Folare. Bye-bye for now.